Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, sorry it's been a little while since I uploaded a video. To be perfectly honest, I just needed to take a little break from, social media, just put the camera down and focus on my training and riding for this past week. Obviously, social media has been crazy right now, and filming and editing the videos does take a lot of extra work that adds on top of just going to the track and doing all my training as it is. So I wanted to just, take a week or maybe a little more than a week even and just really focus on putting in the work and not really have to have the distraction of the camera and everything. So hopefully you guys understand. It's definitely a lot of work doing professional motocross training and everything. So yeah, it can be a lot sometimes. So yeah, I just wanted to take a week there, but I definitely feel nice and recuperated after that little break, and I'm ready to get back into the grind of filming, putting out a bunch of content for you guys. There's like less than a month away from the first national, so we're going to be doing a lot of training, a lot of testing here coming up, and definitely excited to share all that with you guys. But yeah, if you remember from the last video, I said that I was going to post up one of the 35-minute motos, so that's what you're looking at right now on the screen. It's actually my third and last moto of the day, and it's a 30 plus whatever. I don't even remember exactly how long it was, but I told you guys I was going to try something different. And kind of do almost like a podcast type thing where like it's gonna be me just rambling on for however long I feel like, and it's not gonna be cut up and edited. It's just gonna be raw JWalk thoughts. And yeah, obviously you guys can see from the title I picked a topic on how to get faster. So yeah, you guys can kind of treat it like a podcast. Just turn it on in the background, just the audio if you're driving somewhere, or if you've got nothing better to do, you can just watch some moto going down in the background while I just kind of talk about what I'm thinking about while I'm on the track and things that I'm focusing on to try and make myself a faster rider. So yeah, we're going to jump right into that. So as I said, the topic of today's video is how to become a better rider, and this is something that you guys ask me, man, all the time. Like every day I get multiple messages asking me, how can you get faster? And it's so hard for me to answer that because it varies so much on like, a rider to rider basis. Not everyone is suffering from the same things that are preventing them from going fast. Some people need help attacking, coming down straightaways. Some people need corner entry speed. Some people need mid-corner roll-through speed. But the saying, there's that old saying, jump for show, corner for dough, which is like super true. I mean, you can only hit a jump so fast before you start OJing it, and it actually slows you down. But there's pretty much nobody who can't get faster in the corners, maybe unless your name is like Jeffrey Hurlings or Ken Roxon or Eli Tomac. But for the vast majority of us, the corners is where you're going to make up most of your speed. And going even deeper than that, I'll go out on a limb and say that most of us suffer the most from mid-corner roll-through speed. Corner entry speed, really, people tend to overemphasize corner entry speed, and that's something that I'm definitely pretty guilty of over the past couple years. I would always tell myself that the faster I can come into a corner, the more out of control I am coming into it, the faster I feel and the faster I must be going. But over the years, obviously, I've learned that is not the case. There's like an old saying that a bunch of race car drivers use in particular, that you go into the corner slow and then you go through it and out of it fast. And that's the most efficient way and the fastest way to get through a corner. So, corner entry speed obviously is important because you want to attack the corner as hard as you can, but it's okay to sacrifice some corner entry speed to get that mid-corner roll-through speed, and that will ultimately affect your top speed down the next straightaway. So if I had one piece of advice for you guys, it's to focus on your mid-corner roll-through speed. Even if you have to come into the corner a little bit slower, maybe you guys can see, well, actually, I'm coming into the corner still pretty fast here because it's not super rough, but it's definitely something I've been focusing on, is taking a little bit more time coming into the corners. And I think you can even tell in this video that my mid-corner roll-through speed is just so much better than I think it's ever been in the past, really. It sounds kind of like I'm going a little slower because I'm off the gas a little bit earlier, but if you turn the sound off and just like kind of focus on how fast the ground is going by me, especially when I'm like in the apex of a corner, it's definitely pretty noticeable that I'm going through the centers of the corners quite a bit faster. And yeah, so like the corner is broken down into 3 parts pretty much: the entrance, the mid corner, and the corner exit. The entrance to the corner could also be called the braking zone. It's pretty much the entry of the corner starts where you start to get on the brakes, and it ends as soon as you start to lean the bike over and actually, initiate your corner. The point where you actually start to turn your bike, that's the ending of the entrance and the beginning of the mid-corner. Mid-corner obviously goes from that point all the way through until you straighten back out, and then corner exit is obviously when you're going back in a straight line. And I call corner entry the braking zone because that's where all of your braking should be, or like probably 90% of your braking needs to be done in that corner entry. 100% of your rear brake needs to be used in that area. As soon as you hit that point where you start to lean your bike over, you want to get off the rear brake to help you roll through the corners really nice and easy. So maybe that's something you guys will notice that I'm doing if you watch some third person, but as soon as you start to lean the bike over, you should take your foot off the rear brake and just drag your front brake through the rest of the corner. And you should drag your front brake pretty much until the exact middle of the corner. That can help plant your front end and just help you steer a little bit better through the corner. You guys can see I drag my front brake pretty deep into the corner, and I think that's definitely helping just kind of stick the front end and help me carve through the corners a little bit better. But like I was saying before, a lot of people have this misconception that like your top speed down the straightaway is where you're going to make up time. Like you see people getting like the chicken arm or whatever, where they just drop their elbow and they think that getting on the gas super hard is where they're going to make up time. But really, it's not. Like if you look at a graph of your speed throughout the whole lap, it's obviously going to be a bunch of peaks and valleys where you're topping out down the straightaways and then your speed is dropping through the corners, obviously. And there's way more valleys. Like the valleys are a lot deeper. You might be going 8 to 10 miles an hour through a corner, and then you accelerate up to 40 miles an hour down the straightaway. But you're spending a lot more time in the lower speeds, and instead of trying to focus on bringing your top mile an hour up a couple miles an hour, you should be focusing on bringing your slowest speed up, and that's going to really affect the average speed of your lap time. I guess if there's like one analogy I could use for this, and it's going to be a school one because obviously I just graduated from college, but if you have like 10 A's, all right, and a D, getting another A isn't going to bring your average grade up as much as it is to drop the D. The A's obviously keep your average high, but the D brings it down quite a bit. If you could get rid of that D, your average grade goes way higher, but just adding another A onto it doesn't really affect it that much. I don't know if that's applicable to your life, but it's applicable to mine, so that's the only analogy I can think of. Hopefully that makes sense. And obviously, if you can increase the average speed that you're going throughout the lap, you're going to drop your lap times a lot. So I always see a lot of people like just trying to gas it super hard, but honestly, I mean, you can watch my videos. I'm hardly ever like wide open, super aggressive, like gnarly down the straightaways. I make up all my time just by taking a little bit of extra time coming into the corners, getting off the brake, getting off the clutch, and just letting it flow through the center of the corners. And not only is it obviously bringing your lowest mile an hour up, but it's also making it so that you don't have to accelerate so hard down the next straightaway. Obviously, like I was saying before, let's say your lowest speed going through a corner is 8 miles an hour, and then you top out at 40 going down the next straightaway. You have to accelerate, 32 miles an hour? And not only is that inefficient, but it's actually really hard on your body, and that's where most people get their arm pump from, is under heavy acceleration. At least speaking from myself, I know that when I'm not riding well, I'm not going through corners well, that's when I get the most arm pump, because those hard accelerations are where you're really having to hold on the bars to keep yourself from sliding off the back, and that's where it really builds up that arm pump. So if you can roll through the corners 2-3 miles an hour faster, where you can drop the amount of acceleration you have to do, That's really going to help not only with dropping your lap time, but also just, it's going to help out not wear you out so quickly. So like I said, maybe if you're going through the corner at 8 miles an hour, try and focus on going through at 9 miles an hour one time. And you won't even realize it, but it's going to affect your top speed down the next straightaway, even if you're not as hard on the gas, because you're already starting at such a higher speed, And actually, the first couple, the first 20 or 30 feet coming out of a corner is huge. Just like a starting gate, the first 5 feet going out of the starting gate makes a huge difference by the end of the straightaway. Same applies to coming out of a corner. You want to be going as fast as you can coming out of the corner so that you can get up to your top speed quicker, and that's really going to help drop your lap times. So yeah, definitely mid-corner roll-through speed is what you want to be focusing on here. There's quite a few drills that you guys can practice, and you might be noticing me doing it a couple times in my videos where I'll do a no-clutch video where I just go through an entire moto not touching my clutch. The clutch is really a fail-safe. You don't need to use the clutch at all through the entrance and the mid-corner. People really rely on it as a crutch because they want to drag the rear brake and they don't want to stall their bike. But realistically, like I said, you should be off the rear brake when you start to actually turn your bike. So the clutch is really not necessary. And actually, it can hurt you because when you pull the clutch in, obviously it's slowing you down, and then it's, you get the revs up and you dump the clutch, and that causes you to get all off balance. So what I recommend is going out and trying a couple motos using no clutch at all. That will really help you keep that mid-corner speed up so that you don't stall, especially in some really, really tight corners. This track is a perfect example because there's a lot of really tight 180s that don't have super deep ruts in them. So I think the last GoPro I did here was on my Honda, and I actually did a no clutch video because this track is perfect for it. There's a couple corners that are really slick that is really hard to get through with no clutch, but if you can master it, you'll notice huge dividends, and you'll just notice that you're able to flow through the corners so much better if you can get that down. Like I said, the clutch is really missed and overused by a lot of people. I'm pretty guilty of that as well. I've only really recently started to realize that I don't need to use my clutch very much. But through this corner especially, you can kind of hear that I'm just when I get off the brakes, you can hear the revs go up, like there's a lot of engine braking happening, and you can tell that that's happening because I'm not pulling the clutch in. So in some corners, if you come in and when you get off the brakes, the bike is just maintaining really low RPMs, that probably means that you're on the clutch and you can get off of that. Also, like I said, the engine braking alone will help you get through the corner a little bit more stable when you're off the clutch, so that's another benefit of it. So that's one big drill that I've really been working on here. Like I said, you guys have probably noticed it, and it's something I talk about quite frequently. Another really fun drill that one of my coaches used to do way back in the day was he would have us come into a corner that had a good rut, pick your favorite corner on the track that has a nice rut. Come into it, and when you start braking, just hold the clutch in and coast and see how far you can make it through the corner and down the next straightaway just by coasting without giving it any gas at all. He would actually have us shift into neutral going down the straightaway so that we couldn't cheat and give it a little bit of gas. So that's a fun one, especially if it's a really tight corner. Maybe get a couple of your buddies out there and have a competition of who can roll down the next straightaway the farthest. So that's actually a kind of fun one that you can get a couple of your buddies involved with. But yeah, come into the corner, shift it into neutral, or just hold the clutch in and try and carry your momentum through the corner so that you get down the next straightaway, and yeah, see how far you can get. That one's really challenging, but like I said, once you go back into a moto and it's ingrained in your head to carry that momentum, it's going to help you out a lot, and it's really just going to help you get off the brakes, because if you're on the brakes through the corner at all, you are not going to make it to the next corner. But that drill is really important because probably one of the biggest tips that you'll start to learn and realize that pros do is if you have to get on the gas before the mid, the apex of the corner, which is the exact halfway point, it's because you're coming into the corner too slow. And this is huge if you ever watch a Ken Roxon or a James Stewart GoPro. They carry so much speed into the corners and roll through the first half of it so good that they're pretty much never on the gas before the halfway point, and that was something that I was really focusing on in this video. I know the audio is kind of like dimmed down in the background so you guys can hear me talking, but if you pay attention you can hear me in a couple of these corners like staying off the throttle for just an extra like half second, and it really convinces you to come into the corner a little bit faster to carry that speed through, and it keeps you really smooth. If you get on the gas before the halfway point, it can really upset your front end and start to cause you to get off balanced and get really sketchy. Plus, like I said, that just means that you're coming into the corner too slow. You shouldn't need to hit the gas before the apex, and if you are, maybe try and come into the corner a little bit faster and just get off the brakes a little bit earlier, and let it just roll through the corner a little bit better. So finally, the last thing that I've really been trying to focus on lately is keeping my back really straight and sitting a little bit more upright through the corners. It's going to be hard for me to explain this without like showing you guys my body right now, but if you're sitting in your chair right now and you lean forward so that your body is like really hunched over, if you lean to one side or the other, your entire body kind of falls to whichever side you're leaning towards, and it makes it really hard to maintain your balance because any little movement puts a lot of weight distribution over to one side or the other, and it can really throw you off balance. It's really hard to maintain this at the end of the motos, and that's something that I've really been working on. But if you can come through the corners, you know, sitting very upright, like for instance, if you sit upright in your chair right now, you can use your spine to transfer a lot smaller amounts of weight. Like for instance, you can just move your head over to the side, or you can move just your head and a couple of your top vertebrae. Or if you're really off balance, you can move your entire body over, but it's also very easy to center yourself again. And I noticed that like my first couple laps, I have really good posture on the bike, and you almost kind of feel like Ryan Dungey, how he always rides with such a straight back, or like Tim Geiser or Ken Roxon, they always keep their backs really straight and flat. The Lawrence brothers are also super good at that. Those guys are like textbook when it comes to that. But it makes it really easy and effortless to maintain your balance through corners, especially if there's a big rut. And it just helps you stay a lot smoother through the corners. So that's something that I've definitely been working on. Being a taller guy, sometimes I'm guilty of leaning over the front if I have bars that are like a little bit too low for me. That's why I've been playing around with raising the bars up so it kind of keeps my back a little straighter. I'm still not perfect at it. You guys can tell I kind of hunch over in the corners and stuff. I need to get better, but definitely on the first couple of laps I can tell that corners are just so much easier to roll through with speed. When my back is like straight and upright. It just makes it a lot easier to weight myself and keep myself balanced. So yeah, guys, I don't know if this is helpful for you or not, but these are the things that I'm thinking about while I'm riding. And like I said, it's hard to help you guys on a case-to-case basis because it's just so different. You know, people ride differently and they have different strengths and weaknesses. But hopefully by me talking about things that I'm working on, maybe you guys can apply that into your own riding and we can, you know, both get faster together. But yeah, anyways, guys, I think that's about it for me for this one. If you like this style of video, definitely let me know. It's pretty fun and hopefully gets you guys a little bit more engaged with just the GoPros. I know, like, typically it can get pretty boring watching the GoPros. You know, most people click off probably after like 2 or 3 laps. So maybe this is a good way to keep you guys a little bit more engaged. And I also like this a little bit more because in my vlogs or whatever, I try and keep it around that like 10 to 15 minute mark just for the sake of, you know, keeping you guys entertained and everything. And the vast majority of those is just, you know, me riding where I'm not talking or anything. So I have to really be decisive about the words that I use and like the things that I say when I'm doing a vlog, because I want to get my point across as concisely as possible and in as small of amount of time as I can so that you guys don't get bored. But I kind of like just speaking my mind freely and just talking about everything that's on my mind in a video like this. So I think I'm going to start doing these a lot more. It's really fun to just talk about what I'm feeling. And, you know, if you guys can benefit from it, then I think that's really cool. And, yeah, I'll definitely, obviously, still keep up on the vlogs, and I'll for sure still upload just raw GoPros. But if you guys really like this, definitely let me know, because it's super easy for me to do, and it's fun, and hopefully it'll help a few of you guys out. If not, hopefully it's just good entertainment anyways. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. I think there's still about like 10 minutes left of this moto, so I'm just going to shut up and let that play. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the rest of the moto. Peace out, guys.